When you are a child, a single year can feel endless. Summers seem to stretch forever. Waiting for holidays feels unbearable, and the idea of growing older feels impossibly far away. But as you age, something strange begins to happen. Years start slipping past unnoticed. Months blur together. Entire phases of life feel compressed into brief memories. It isn't that time itself is accelerating, it is that your brain is changing the way it experiences and records your life. The human brain does not measure time using clocks or calendars. Instead, it estimates how long something felt based on how much information it processed and stored during that period. When an experience contains a lot of novelty, detail, emotion, and complexity, the brain creates many distinct memories. When an experience is repetitive and predictable, the brain stores very little. Childhood is filled almost entirely with new experiences. Everything from learning language, to understanding social rules, to navigating the world for the first time forces the brain to slow down and carefully encode information. Each unfamiliar moment requires attention and effort. This creates dense layers of memory. Because so much is being recorded, childhood feels vast when you look back on it. As you grow older, your brain becomes more efficient. It learns what to expect. It recognizes patterns. It begins to automate behavior. You no longer consciously process most daily actions because you have performed them thousands of times before. Your morning routine, your commute, your work environment, and even many conversations begin to feel familiar. When days resemble each other, the brain starts grouping them together instead of storing them as separate events. This process, often described as memory compression, causes long stretches of time to collapse into small memory clusters. 10 similar days may feel like one. 4 similar weeks may feel like a vague blur. When you later reflect on these periods, there is very little distinct information to measure against, so the time feels short. Novel experiences interrupt this compression. When you encounter something unfamiliar, a region of the brain called the hippocampus becomes highly active. The hippocampus plays a major role in forming long-term memories. Increased activity in this region leads to richer and more detailed memory storage. That is why the first week at a new job feels long, why traveling to an unfamiliar place feels stretched, and why major life transitions feel heavy and slow. Your brain is recording more, so the period occupies more psychological space. This is also why a 5-day vacation can feel longer than an entire month of normal work. During the vacation, your brain processes new sights, new sounds, new environments, and new decisions. When you later recall the experience, you access many individual memory files. During routine work weeks, there may be only a handful of distinct memories. The difference in memory density creates the illusion of time expansion or contraction. There is also a mathematical component to this phenomenon. When you are 5 years old, 1 year represents 20% of your entire life experience. When you are 50, 1 year represents only 2%. Each additional year becomes a smaller fraction of your total lived time. As those fractions shrink, years feel subjectively shorter. Attention further shapes how time feels. When you are bored, time seems to drag in the moment because your brain is actively waiting for stimulation. When you are deeply engaged, time appears to pass quickly because your attention is absorbed. However, memory reverses this effect. Boring experiences leave weak memory traces and collapse in hindsight, while engaging experiences leave strong memory traces and expand when recalled. The important realization is that while you cannot slow the physical passage of time, you can influence how much of your life your brain actually records. By breaking routines, learning difficult skills, exploring unfamiliar environments, and exposing yourself to new experiences, you increase memory formation. Increased memory formation makes life feel fuller, richer, and longer. Time feels faster as you age not because life is shrinking, but because your brain is becoming efficient. Efficiency conserves energy, but novelty creates memories. And memories create the feeling of time. If life feels like it is speeding up, you do not need more hours in the day. You need more experiences worth remembering.